Hi, this is Pykris, and you're listening to Catholic versus Other.
Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you believe, and how you came to believe it.
Okay, so I'm 28. I live in the most crappiest town ever. You know, I've been through mental hospitals a couple times, and every time I've been in there, it seems like I become more disillusioned with things. I've had these episodes where things are like revealed to me, and it's just crazy.
What did you grow up with? Were you introduced to religion as a very young child? And did you go back and forth with different mainstream religions or atheism? Or how did that work for you?
Well, my mother is a Methodist and my dad's a non-practicing Catholic. So I grew up basically in the Methodist Church. It's the only one out of all the Protestant religions that I can even get behind. The man who founded it, John Wesley, was very into that your relationship with God should be between you and him, and there shouldn't be a middleman between the two. He thought it should be personal. So I always kind of gravitated towards that. It made sense to me.
How did you learn about John Wesley? Was that your own initiative, or were you taught?
Google, Wikipedia, stuff like that. And my mom used to tell me about it because she did a little research too on it.
Did she teach you to pray at night before bed?
No, my parents aren't really super religious. So I always kind of had a different outlook on religion. It was never, you can't look at that, you can't do that. It was always like, oh, go ahead.
And what is the ethnic background of both parents? Could you talk a little bit about that?
My mom is mostly British, and my dad is mostly Irish. But there's a smattering of other things in my mom and both parents. Like my mom has some Native American and some North African ancestry, and my dad has European Jewish ancestry. My last name translates out of German to meaning impetuous or fierce. It derives from an old Middle High German word. And the German side of my dad's family, they come from Baden-Baden on the edge of the Black Forest. And I was also doing research, and a lot of the legends of werewolves come out of the Black Forest, Germany. So I wonder if someone in my family line was accused of being a werewolf. There seems to be some sort of collaboration there with the supernatural things that I've encountered. Puzzle pieces are falling together.
What age were you when you started to have this notion of the supernatural, that it was real, that it wasn't just a fairy tale, that there is another sort of dimension or another reality above this natural plane? How old would you have been?
I think around the age of 11 or 12.
Were the experiences positive or negative? Or?
Well, back then it was positive. And then fast forward 10 years later, I have an experience 3 years ago that led me to being hospitalized. I had wound up purchasing marijuana that had been laced with DMT. And as soon as it entered my system, I was not here anymore, not on this plane.
Scary. Very
scary.
So how did you confirm that that was the substance that it was laced with, DMT?
Blood test when I went to the hospital.
Oh, okay. Had you ever thought about taking DMT prior to that?
I had, because everything I read said it was like having a transcendental experience, but some people come out of it and they're not the same.
Right, and was that the case for you?
I would say so. I came out the other side and I'm a totally different person than I was.
Okay, you would have been 22 or something like that at the time?
25.
Okay. So can you talk me through the trip a little bit?
When I first ingested it, I felt on top of the world, like crazy on top of the world, but I think that was the pot. But when the DMT finally kicked in, I had visions. I had visions of the future, the past, various other things. It's hard to describe. Like when I went to the hospital, my mom took me and I had a vision of being shot in the head by a cop in the emergency room.
So there was a bit of paranoia?
A little bit. Yep. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but you know.
And were there beings approaching you?
Yes, my higher self approached me.
You are separate from your higher self?
Well, we're the same. We're together, but it's just easier to refer to him as separate.
Okay. And is he a nice guy?
Very, very nice guy, actually.
If you don't say so yourself.
If I don't say so myself, he's a good. No. I mean, he claims to be the son of Satan.
Okay. One of the many sons of Satan, or the son?
One of the many.
Okay. But in my religion, the Roman Catholic Church clearly teaches that each angel is a unique species and they don't generate offspring of any kind. What do you say about that?
He's sired a number of children.
How would Satan reproduce? What is the mechanism? Like, he's not a man that has sex with a woman. So what's happening?
Creating.
Okay. He wills a child and the child is sort of like that? God said, let there be light, and there was light. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And in your worldview, you don't see my God as superior. You see my God as some sibling to Satan. Is that right?
To an extent, yes.
How many siblings does Satan have, do you think?
I never thought about it.
But my God is the most famous brother that Satan has, right?
Yes. Yeah. The spiritual plane, or the astral plane, the ether, whatever you want to call it, exists on top of the physical realm. When I was on DMT, I swear I could see both at the same time. And it changed my whole outlook. I've been a student of like quantum physics and stuff. And what we see as reality is only like 1/10 of actually what's going on.
Well, what I would describe as the supernatural, to me, it's more real than the natural. And I think that's what you're sort of hinting at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hinting at, actually.
I think that the spiritual realm is more vast, it's more real than what we experience on this natural plane. We really are living a dumbed down existence here.
I agree. I totally agree. I've become a little disillusioned.
Yeah, and when you watch the news, you can probably see now that it's more or less just a thin veneer of entertainment.
Yeah, yes. Oh my God, finally somebody else who has the same thought. Yeah, CNN, man. CNN is fake news. And it's been proven too, and that's the scary part.
In my worldview, you can end up in hell forever, and that's a really nasty, horrible outcome, and it never ends. And then there's heaven, which is the opposite. It's completely wonderful. Do you have extreme outcomes that are possible in your worldview?
I do, but my views on hell are quite different than yours.
Yeah, I would think so.
Like, yes, there's destruction and torture and whatnot, but that's only a little minuscule part of it. And that's really only for people who have done like really extremely bad things in their life. But the rest of hell is not so bad.
The people that we see in pop culture, like rock and roll, heavy metal people that crave hell and they serve Satan openly, and they want that sort of sex, drugs, and rock and roll pleasure that they attribute to hell. I think all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll is in heaven, but they claim it's in hell. Do you agree with them, and do you think that they're headed for a big party?
I think it's both. Honestly, I think it's both. I think sex, drugs, and rock and roll show up in both.
Because sex is good, drugs are good, and rock and roll is good in my Catholic worldview. It's just there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah. I would actually agree with that. There's a time and a place for everything.
Can you talk a little bit about the physical universe and what role Satan played in creating the universe?
Well, he had a part in it. It was a group effort to create the universe. It was a group effort.
Can you talk about Adam and Eve and that how it fits into your worldview?
Well, if you've ever studied Jewish folklore, Lilith was the first wife of Adam. She rebelled against him. She was kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and then God made Eve out of his rib, so she would be more controllable.
So where's Lilith?
She's around.
Does she play a part in the quote-unquote family of Satan? Like, is she a consort or a lover of Satan?
I think she's a lover.
And does she have a lot of control over Satan, do you think?
No, not really.
She just puts her 2 cents in and he takes it or leaves it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is Satan happy with the way things are turning out?
For the most part, from what I understand, he's less disillusioned now because he realized that nobody is really inherently evil, and he can't really exploit that anymore.
Now, I believe in a God that is all-knowing, all-loving, all-good, that's infinite in every perfection. How do you see Satan in terms of, if he's the supreme being, how can he learn about his creation? It doesn't sound as magnificent as the God that I worship, where my God always knew everything right from the beginning. He didn't learn anything. So,
well, I think everyone has flaws, including the gods. They all have flaws. I mean, the Greeks, with their mythology, all their gods had flaws.
Do you see a lot of truth in mythology of all the world religions and legends?
I do. I was doing research on it's Hermes Trismegistus or something like that. And he had the idea that all religions have a common thread.
It's a very popular notion today, the Joseph Campbell narrative of what religion is. Even Carl Jung, yes. See, Jung had a very interesting world outlook. He thought that we were all connected, and was that part of your DMT experience or no?
Yes, it was definitely part of it.
How are you supposed to work with this new understanding of your, like, from your perspective, obviously? How are you supposed to work with this and integrate it into your mundane day-to-day life?
I don't know. It's been really hard, man. It's been really hard trying to integrate it into my life.
You know, it's not easy. It's not easy at all being on this planet, no matter what you believe. And if you believe nothing, that's the hardest, probably.
Yeah, it is. To believe nothing. I mean, I was an atheist for a while, and it just seemed like a cop-out. It's basically like, I don't know, I don't see evidence, I don't believe in this anymore. So I think being an atheist is a cop-out. Life is too short to sit on the fence. Find something you can believe in and run with it.
I believe as a Catholic that I have a guardian angel and that he's always with me. Do you have angels, or I guess you would call them demons, fallen angels, that are protecting you?
I do.
And can you give an example of how that benefits you?
Well, I'm a very introverted person, and they tend to keep me company.
So would you say in general that you enjoy the company of Satan?
Yes, I would.
You know, from my perspective, Satan's a liar and he's treating you very well now, but later he's going to torture you and it won't be fun. How do you respond to that sort of warning?
Personally, I think it's a good warning, because he can be a liar and a deceiver.
Okay, you know that.
I do know that, yes. But I think it depends on the person.
I thank Satan for the role that he played in bringing me to what I consider to be ultimate reality and ultimate truth, and to salvation. So from my perspective, I can see the role that Satan's playing against his will. He's cooperating with my God and bringing a happy ending, you know. And those who deserve everlasting torment because of their hatred of God and everything that's good, I think that he's playing an important role too in tricking them straight into the depths of hell.
Yeah, well, that's his game. I'm not denying it. That's his game. But he tends to wind up having a few souls that he actually cares about.
Like you?
Like me. And a certain few other people.
Are there some big names in history you could talk about in that context?
Well, let's just get one thing out of the way. Anton LaVey was an idiot. According to my higher self, Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey both summoned him.
They both summoned Satan?
Well, yeah, but they summoned his son as well.
Oh, they summoned your higher self?
Yes.
Okay, you can't tell me the name of that entity?
It's the name I used in the intro.
Pykris?
Pykris, yes.
Okay, I hope I didn't just summon him. Anyway, I renounce Pykris. There you go. So anyway.
No, he's laughing right now. He's just laughing. He's like, "Oh, this is a pretty good interview."
Okay, so hold on. Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley were summoning Pykris. Okay.
Pykris gets mistaken for Satan all the time
because of the red skin and the horns and the long tail.
He doesn't have red skin and the horns and a tail.
I'm just kidding.
But he's talked about it several times to me, and it's like it all happened by accident.
It seems odd because Anton LaVey was an atheist, wasn't he?
Well, it was accidental.
Oh, okay. Just because of gestures or rituals or theatrical play?
Mm-hmm.
So it is dangerous to playfully engage in Ouija boards and these sorts of things.
Yes, it is. Very. The only way to effectively destroy a Ouija board is to burn it.
Okay, with natural fire?
Yes.
Now, what about that guy that was in Russia and he made lots of predictions and he was hard to kill?
You mean Grigory Rasputin?
Yeah, was he a big player in the world of Satanism?
I think he had ties to it. He was a healer, and he could do things that nobody else could do.
Did he think he was getting his powers from God or from Satan or what?
You know, I don't really know.
I should look into it.
Yeah, I should look into it too.
So you're not in touch with the whole history of the human race, past, present, and future. You just have a few connections on the other side.
Yes.
Is sacrifice, because in my religion, there's no forgiveness of sins without the shedding of blood. And so the true sacrifice is the Son of God, Jesus Christ. He's the Lamb of God. So is there a notion of sacrifice and of blood ritual in your worldview?
It was done at one point to make a point. It's like, we're here, we know you're here and everything. But I don't think sacrifice has a place in modern times.
There was a lot of talk in the 80s, the satanic panic about child sacrifice and stuff like that. Is there any truth to that?
I think there's some truth to it.
And sex abuse, ritual sex abuse and stuff like that.
Yeah, ritual sex abuse. So I think there is some truth to that, and those people are playing the wrong game. Don't play the game if you won't want to get burned.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lack of education among the sort of pagan, Wiccan, satanic world about the dangers of what people engage in. It's sort of like everyone's free to experiment and do what they want to do, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of clear warnings about what not to do.
Well, in my opinion, I think a lot of the satanic texts have been suppressed over the years.
Can you talk a little bit about Pharaoh and the 10 plagues? Is that something that sort of interests you at all?
Yes, that actually interests me a lot. Well, apparently, if you've been following what happened on 4chan, they apparently accidentally resurrected an Egyptian deity.
Are you talking about that frog?
Yep. Kek and Pepe the Frog.
With Satanism, I find there's a lot of humor and there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek sarcasm. And it makes it hard to know what's real and what's not and what's frightening and what's funny.
Yes, it is.
And I see that as a sort of veil over the very deadly and serious as a mask of humor and lightheartedness. And I see that with Kek and the frog god.
Yeah, well, according to legend, Kek was the Egyptian god of primordial chaos.
Not something you want to mess with.
No, and apparently memes and stuff give him power.
I wonder what Carl Jung would say about all this.
I think you'd actually legitimately find it fascinating that the collective unconscious and the collective conscious sort of came together and accidentally resurrected an ancient deity.
There are a bunch of different satanic churches that are sort of coming out of the closet and getting official recognition. Do you have a church? And if you do, is it recognized and is it open?
No, it's open, but it's not really a church. It's more of a collective.
Worldwide, your numbers of explicit conscious members of this collective would be 50 people, 500 people, 5,000, 5 million? How many?
I'm not even sure.
Well, how many do you know of personally that you speak with on internet or in reality? A handful?
Yeah.
Not that many?
No.
And is it important to you that the numbers increase or not really?
It's not really important to me. I do what I do. I believe what I believe. And if somebody wants to come along and experience it, then so be it.
You're not pushing. Like Scientology is pushing pretty hard. You're not pushing.
Oh, don't get me started on Scientology. Don't get me started on that. I have a whole rant about Scientology.
Why? Why don't you like them?
Because it's ridiculous. It was a religion formed by a 2-bit science fiction writer.
And what role does Satan play in Scientology?
He wants to be as very far away from that as possible. Don't put his name and L. Ron Hubbard's name in the same sentence.
So are there other cults that are equally disdainful to you? Like the Westboro Baptist Church, do you find that a hateful organization?
They should be ashamed of themselves. I don't crap on anyone who has religion. I happen to have a lot of friends that are Catholic. A lot of my family is still Catholic. And the Westboro Baptist Church are just a bunch of hateful people. That how they could take the Bible and see it as a tool for hate.
What do you think about Pope Francis as a man and as a spiritual leader?
I think Pope Francis is a progressive.
Okay, is that a dirty word for you, or is that okay?
It has dirty connotations because just a lot of the weird crap that's going on in the world today. Bunch of whiny people whining about everything.
Political correctness and all that?
Yeah, I hate political correctness. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it.
Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about politics because I'm not that interested. But Nicky said something funny. She said politics gives Satan a headache.
It does. Oh my God, it does. And he hates it when I rant about politics.
What does Satan like to talk about with you?
Funnily enough, classic automobiles.
Really? Okay, what kind of car does he like?
Old Cadillacs, hearses, stuff like that.
Okay. What about the goth and emo scenes? Are they connected in any way with paganism or Wicca or Satanism, or is it just a fashion?
I've met a few emo and goth people that have been Satanists, but it seems like they're sort of like, oh, this is cool right now, let's do this.
It is sort of trendy now to come out as a Satanist. I see a lot online. I don't know if that's just because the internet's exposing sort of the underbelly. They're comfortable coming out of the closet because they can still hide it from their families, or if it's actually growing. What do you think?
I think the internet has changed the way we look at the world. Because anybody can post anything on the internet. But that's what appeals to me about the net, is that you can remain anonymous.
Now, I want to go back to something you said earlier in the interview. You talked about spending time in the mental institution or something like that.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the people you met there, the staff, the other patients? What did you learn, like not only about yourself, but about the system, about people trying to get help, and about just mental illness in general?
This is going to be a long rant. So I've been in 4 times now. In the past 3 years, I've been inpatient 4 times. What I learned about it is my whole thing about, I mean, yes, there do exist mental illnesses, of course. They do exist. But to me, it seems like half the time that the people who go in there aren't getting the help they need. All they do is they keep you for a couple of days, put you on some kind of drug that doesn't really do anything, and then send you on your way and expect you to be better.
Did you get any compassion from any of the staff or your fellow patients?
Yes. The head nurse was very friendly, and we kind of connected on a level.
I worked in an old folks' home, and I was just cleaning, but I saw that a lot of the staff were very good and very conscientious and very caring, and they gave a lot, but some of the staff treated it more like a job. Yep.
I noticed that too, like, you know, because I'm on the inside. And it also seems like they treat mental health patients as prisoners, and I don't like it. Ever since I've had my run-ins with psychiatry, I've become like an anti-psych person.
Yeah, well, I think there's some truth in psychiatry, but it's just the human side where the application may be inhuman.
Exactly. It sounds good on paper, but the execution is crap.
It's hard enough to love your brother like your own biological brother, never mind some stranger that you're given charge of. And you don't have time to get to know them, and you know that you're just part of a big machine that's grinding them out.
Exactly. The one thing that makes me want to scream is that the psychiatrists that work inpatient are horribly incompetent.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad world we're living in. On a cheerier note, what I like to do at the end of my show is just let my guests talk to the audience directly. Just to finish up and to wrap up our talk, what would you say to anyone out there that's listening?
You know, it gets better, guys. It gets better. It really does. If you're out there and you're feeling like you don't have anything, or you don't feel like life is going anywhere, you know, get help. Find a good psychiatrist and get help.
If you like your worldview, if you think it's swell, if you've got some questions, ask me and I'll tell. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask.